Marcus Bennett stood in the hotel corridor, his weathered hands clutching a bouquet of deep red roses. At 42, the delivery driver had seen better days. Rain dripped from his jacket onto the plush carpet, and he could feel the weight of exhaustion settling into his bones after another 12-hour shift. The roses were perfect, their petals still fresh despite the storm outside, and he checked the order slip one more time. Room 412, anniversary delivery. He knocked gently, rehearsing his usual cheerful greeting. The door opened and Marcus found himself face to face with a woman who seemed to shimmer even in the dim hallway light. Her blonde hair was swept up elegantly, and she wore a white silk robe that spoke of luxury he could barely imagine. But it was her eyes that caught him, blue and somehow both distant and desperately sad. She looked at the roses, then at him, and for a moment neither of them spoke. "I think there's been a mistake," she said softly, her voice carrying the refined accent of old money and European finishing schools. Marcus checked his slip again, his heart sinking. "Room 412, right? Anniversary bouquet for—" He paused, realizing the name on the order didn't match the elegant woman before him. "This is 412, she confirmed, "but I'm not expecting flowers." Not from anyone. There was something final in the way she said it, as if she'd long ago stopped expecting beautiful things to arrive at her door. Marcus felt his face flush with embarrassment. "I'm so sorry, ma'am. I must have written down the wrong room number. This has been one of those days where nothing seems to go right?" He gave her a weary smile. "I've got a 7-year-old daughter at home who needs dinner, and here I am, delivering flowers to the wrong room. Some days, you wonder if you're doing anything right at all." The woman's expression softened, and she tilted her head slightly, studying him with new interest. "You're a father?" "Yes, ma'am. Single dad. My wife passed away 3 years ago, and it's just been Emma and me ever since. She's the reason I keep going, honestly. The reason any of this matters." He gestured vaguely at the flowers, at his damp uniform, at the life he'd built from the pieces left behind. Something shifted in the woman's face. She stepped back from the doorway. "Would you like to come in for a moment? Dry off? You look like you could use a break from your deliveries." Marcus hesitated. He'd been taught not to fraternize with hotel guests, especially ones who stayed in suites that probably cost more per night than he made in a week. But there was something in her invitation, a loneliness that mirrored his own, and he found himself nodding. "Just for a minute," he said. "I should really figure out where these flowers actually belong." The suite was breathtaking. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city lights, rain streaking down the glass like tears. The furniture was all clean lines and expensive fabrics, but somehow the room felt empty, as if all the luxury in the world couldn't fill the space where warmth should be. "I'm Olivia," she said, moving to a small bar and pouring 2 glasses of water. "Olivia Ashford. And before you ask, yes, those Ashfords. The hotels, the real estate, all of it." She handed him a glass with a sad smile. "Though tonight I'm just a woman who's been stood up on what was supposed to be her engagement dinner." Marcus took the water gratefully. "I'm Marcus Bennett, and I'm sorry to hear that. Nobody deserves to be stood up, especially not on such an important evening." Olivia settled onto the sofa, tucking her legs beneath her. "It's complicated. My family has expectations. The man they wanted me to marry had other priorities, apparently. A business merger seemed more important than actually showing up." She laughed, but there was no humor in it. "I'm 53 years old, and I'm still letting other people make my choices for me." Marcus set down the roses carefully on the coffee table between them. "I'm 42, and most days I feel like I'm barely holding my life together with duct tape and hope. But I'll tell you what I've learned. At some point, you have to decide what really matters. For me, it's Emma. Everything else, all the struggle, all the hard days, they're worth it because I get to be her dad." They talked for nearly an hour. Marcus told her about Emma, about her love of drawing and how she wanted to be an artist when she grew up. He told her about the grief of losing his wife, about learning to braid hair from YouTube videos, about parent-teacher conferences and school plays and the peculiar terror of raising a daughter alone in a world that sometimes felt too harsh. Olivia listened with an intensity that suggested she hadn't had a real conversation in years. She told him about the loneliness of wealth, about business empires built by her grandfather that now felt like a prison, She told him about art galleries she'd visited alone, about charity galas where she was surrounded by hundreds of people and felt invisible, about the slow realization that money could buy almost anything except genuine, human connection. "My mother always said I should marry someone appropriate," Olivia said quietly. "Someone from the right family with the right connections. But none of those appropriate people ever asked me what I dreamed about. None of them cared that I wanted to paint, or that I spent every Sunday morning at the animal shelter walking dogs because it was the only time I felt useful." Marcus smiled. "Emma volunteers at the animal shelter too. She's been begging me for a dog for 2 years, but our apartment doesn't allow pets. She settles for giving every stray cat in the neighborhood names and personalities." "She sounds wonderful," Olivia said, and there was genuine warmth in her voice. "She is. She's everything good about the world." All packed into one 7-year-old girl with paint under her fingernails and an opinion about everything. The rain had stopped when Marcus finally stood to leave. He'd found the right room number, 3 floors up, and called the hotel desk to have the flowers redirected. But before he left, Olivia touched his arm gently. "Thank you," she said, "for the conversation, for reminding me that there are good people in the world who care about the right things." Marcus smiled. "Thank you for listening. And for what it's worth, anyone who would stand you up is a fool. You deserve someone who shows up. We all do." 3 days later, Marcus was surprised to find Olivia waiting in the lobby of his building. She looked different in casual clothes. Jeans and a soft sweater, her hair loose around her shoulders. She held a gift bag nervously. "I hope this isn't too forward," she said quickly. "But I did some research and I found out where you lived. I wanted to give this to Emma." She held out the bag. "Art supplies. The good kind. The kind I wish I'd had when I was her age." Emma appeared at Marcus's side, her eyes wide. "Are those for me?" Marcus started to protest, but Olivia knelt down to Emma's level. "Only if you promise to use them. And maybe, if your dad says it's okay, you could show me some of your art sometime. I used to paint and I've been thinking about starting again." Emma looked at her father, who nodded slowly, something warm and unexpected blooming in his chest. "I think that would be nice." What followed was a friendship that surprised everyone, not least Marcus and Olivia themselves. She started coming by on weekends, always bringing some thoughtful gift. Never overwhelming, always just right. She and Emma would paint together while Marcus cooked dinner. And somehow the small apartment felt fuller, warmer, more like a home than it had since his wife died. Olivia had never been around children much, but with Emma it all felt natural. She listened to Emma's elaborate stories about school, admired her drawings, and treated her ideas with the seriousness they deserved. And Emma, with the uncomplicated wisdom of children, simply decided that Olivia was family. For Marcus, watching Olivia transform was like watching spring arrive after a long winter. She laughed more easily, the sadness in her eyes replaced by something brighter. She started painting again, setting up a small studio in one of her unused properties, and the work she produced was full of color and life. "I forgot what it felt like," she told Marcus one evening after Emma had gone to bed. They sat on his small balcony, the city spread out below them, to look forward to the weekend, to have plans that matter, to feel like I'm part of something real. Marcus reached for her hand without thinking, and she laced her fingers through his. "You are part of something real. You're part of us." 6 months after that wrong delivery, Marcus found himself in a situation he'd never imagined. Olivia had invited him to a charity gala, one of those glittering events where tickets cost thousands of dollars. He'd tried to refuse, but she'd been insistent. "I need you there," she'd said simply. "And it's time I stopped hiding the people who actually matter to me." So Marcus rented a suit and found himself in a ballroom full of people who'd never had to worry about making rent. But Olivia stayed at his side, her hand in his, and when people asked who he was, she introduced him without hesitation. "This is Marcus Bennett. He's a delivery driver, a wonderful father, and the kindest man I've ever met. He's also the person who reminded me what really matters in life." The looks they received were mixed. Some people were confused, others dismissive, a few openly disapproving. But Olivia's mother, a formidable woman in her 80s, studied Marcus with sharp eyes and then smiled. "My daughter looks happier than I've seen her in 30 years, she said. "I don't care if you deliver flowers or run a corporation. Anyone who can do that is welcome in this family." The proposal came on an ordinary Tuesday. Marcus had just picked up Emma from school, and they'd come home to find Olivia in their apartment, which wasn't unusual anymore. She'd learned to pick the lock after Marcus kept forgetting to give her a key, and he'd given up being surprised by her presence. But this time was different. She'd been crying, and Emma immediately ran to her, wrapping small arms around her waist. "What's wrong, Livy?" Emma asked, using the nickname she'd decided on months ago. "Nothing's wrong, sweetheart," Olivia said, but her voice shook. "Everything's actually very right, and it's terrifying." She looked at Marcus. "I had a meeting with my family's lawyers today. They've been pressuring me to marry someone appropriate, someone who fits their image of what an Ashford should be, and I told them no." Marcus moved closer. "What did you tell them?" "I told them that if I was going to marry anyone, it would be for love. Real love. The kind that shows up even when it's hard. The kind that delivers flowers in the rain and learns to braid hair from YouTube videos. The kind that matters." Emma looked between them, her eyes bright. "Are you going to marry Daddy?" Olivia laughed, wiping her eyes. "Well, I was hoping he might ask me, but I'm old-fashioned enough that I thought the man should propose." Marcus felt his heart hammering. "I don't have a ring. I don't have anything close to what you deserve. I'm just a guy who delivers flowers and tries to be a good father." "You're not just anything," Olivia said firmly. "You're everything I've been looking for my entire life. You're real. You're kind. You show up. And I love you, Marcus Bennett. I love you and I love Emma. And I want to build a life with both of you if you'll have me." Emma tugged on her father's sleeve. "Say yes, Daddy, please say yes." Marcus pulled Olivia into his arms, feeling Emma squeeze between them, and for the first time in 3 years, his future felt full of possibility instead of just survival. "Yes," he whispered. "Yes, absolutely yes." The wedding was small, held in the garden of one of Olivia's properties with just close friends and family. Emma was the flower girl, wearing a dress she'd helped design, scattering petals with solemn concentration. Olivia's mother sat in the front row, dabbing at her eyes with a handkerchief. Marcus's vows were simple. "I promise to show up, every day in every way that matters. I promise to love you not because of what you have, but because of who you are. I promise that you'll never feel lonely again." Olivia's vows were longer, talking about finding hope in unexpected places, about the courage it takes to choose love over expectations, about the family you build rather than the one you're born into. Life after the wedding took some adjusting. They moved into a house that was grand by Marcus's standards, but modest by Olivia's, a compromise that felt right for all of them. Marcus kept his delivery job for a while, not because he needed to, but because it mattered to him to maintain that part of his identity. Eventually, Olivia convinced him to join her in running a new non-profit she was starting, one focused on supporting single parents and providing art, education to underserved children. It combined their passions in a way that felt meaningful. Emma thrived with Olivia in her life. She had art lessons from real teachers now, but she still loved painting with Olivia best. The two of them spending hours in the studio talking about color and light and how to capture feeling on canvas. On their first anniversary, Marcus brought Olivia breakfast in bed with a single red rose. She laughed, touching the petals gently. "Remember when you delivered flowers to the wrong room?" she asked. "Best mistake I ever made," Marcus said, kissing her forehead. "Not a mistake," Olivia corrected. "Fate, luck, whatever you want to call it. But definitely not a mistake." Emma appeared in the doorway, already dressed for the day. "Are we still going to the shelter this morning?" "I promised Mrs. Henderson I'd walk the new dogs." "Absolutely," Olivia said. "Family tradition." And that's what they became. A family knitted together not by blood or expectations, but by choice and love and the simple act of showing up for each other. Marcus still delivered things sometimes, but now it was delivering Emma to art classes, delivering homemade meals to Olivia when she worked too late, delivering kindness in the same way. That first bouquet had inadvertently delivered hope. Sometimes the best things in life arrive at the wrong address. Sometimes they arrive exactly when and where they need to, disguised as mistakes, but really just life's way of saying, "Pay attention. This matters. This could change everything." And sometimes, all it takes is the courage to open the door when opportunity knocks, even if you're not expecting anyone, even if you think the delivery must be meant for someone else.